All right. Hope you guys are doing well today. Got a training for you. And this is all about how to stop overeating and get in control of your cravings. If you are someone who has struggled with overeating, then you know that this is very important because if you don't master your portion control, essentially, you are going to be caught in the cycle of one step forward and two steps back anytime you're in front of tempting food. A lot of my clients, have business dinners or they're in front of tasty food at the office, or maybe you go to a conference where there's a lot of food. Maybe you're traveling and you're dealing with, food at the airport. Whatever it may be, at some point, if you're an executive, you're going to be faced with the challenge of needing to be in control of what you're eating and how much you're eating. And if you don't have something in place to help you with portion control, it can be very easy to overeat. And that can be something that's continuously setting you back from reaching your fitness goals. So clearly, this is something that you have to master. If you guys didn't know, my name is Molly Van Marth. I'm an executive health and fitness consultant. I help my clients drop the last 10 to 20 or more pounds and maintain or gain lean muscle mass in the process. I also help you guys get into better shape without sacrificing your energy, which is essential if you're an executive. You can't sacrifice performance for looking better, but most likely it is important for you to look better and feel better and get into optimal health. So if that's you and we haven't chatted yet, good to connect on here. So yeah, today we're talking about how to not overeat. And essentially, if you are here right now and that's something you're struggling with, you can probably put yourself into one of these three categories for the cycle that you're caught in. If you're caught in a 24-hour cycle of overeating, you might feel like you eat well throughout the day. And then when nighttime hits, you are absolutely starving and you eat everything in the pantry. If you're caught in a weekly cycle, maybe you do well during the work week and you have kind of routine salads and sandwiches that you eat throughout the work week. And then when the weekend hits, it's a free for all, whether it's social eating, you're going out to eat with your partner, or maybe you have kids. And so you're constantly, I have two kids, so I know how that is, constantly surrounded by kid food. And it's hard to stay in control of that. Also, you could be someone who's caught in more of a seasonal cycle. So, maybe throughout, routine months where things are pretty typical and you're in a normal routine, things go well. And then when something like summer break hits or the holidays, you go way overboard and then you have large periods of weight gain. Different for everybody where they struggle and how they struggle. But a lot of times, and here's the good news, it's really not about the foods that are in front of you. It's more about your body's physiological state when you are in front of those foods. And that is why meal plans are not the answer, right? A lot of times people think, gosh, I can't stop overeating all this bad food. If I just put myself on a restrictive meal plan, I will be more in control of what I'm eating. That doesn't work because, again, the answer is within your body. When you are constantly triggering your body to be hungry and to be in a state of craving things, at some point, doesn't matter what the food is, you're going to cave. You will cave into those cravings and overeat. So if there's one concept you walk away with, it's not about eliminating the food. It's about putting yourself in a position of being in control of your hunger so that you can choose what you eat and when you eat it. And so that when you indulge a little bit and you enjoy treats, it can be in moderation and then you don't feel guilt and you can continue to make progress towards your goals. Okay. And here's the key. How do we do this, right? So, okay, it's about my body. It's about eliminating the feeling of craving things, the feeling of being overly hungry. What does that mean? And how do we do that? The key is in identifying what is the trigger within your body, not as in what the trigger is with food, right? It's actually what is being triggered in your body to create those states of really craving food and being overly hungry. So the truth is, the thing that I see most of the time is that it comes down to essentially three different triggers that I see my clients facing a lot. And as long as we can identify which trigger is happening within their bodies, we can turn it off and put them back in control of what they're eating and how much they're eating. So I'm going to go over the three most common triggers I see and how to fix each one. Here's number one: unchecked ghrelin spikes and blood sugar crashes. Now, this might sound kind of sciencey to you. Don't worry. This is actually something that is easy to understand, okay? Ghrelin spikes are essentially talking about your hunger hormone. Ghrelin is your hunger hormone. So as you can imagine, if ghrelin is low, you're not very hungry. If ghrelin is really high and your ghrelin levels are off the charts, you're going to be very hungry. And that's puts you in a position to overeat, right? So if you have a ghrelin spike, the two scenarios that make that likely to happen where your ghrelin is very elevated is if you've lost a lot of body fat or if you've been in a caloric deficit for a long time. So if you've been dieting for a while. The thing you have to realize here is if you're losing weight and you're working towards your weight loss goals, one of those two things is going to happen. Both of those are going to happen, right? At some point, you will have lost a lot of body fat and you will have probably lowered your food intake. You've probably had to cut your calories. That's how weight loss happens. Cutting calories is just part of it, right? So you need to be aware that on your weight loss journey, at some point, that's going to happen and ghrelin will absolutely rise. So this is why people experience the rebound effect with weight loss a lot of the time is they're not managing their ghrelin levels. Yes, you have to cut calories. Obviously, weight loss is part of it, but you need to make sure that you're aware that that will create a rise in ghrelin, and that will make you likely to overeat if you don't address that. The other thing we're talking about with this trigger, and the reason I have these combined is because they're fixed with the same things. The solution for both of these separate problems is the same, and that's a good thing. It makes it more simple for you. Blood sugar dysregulation happens. First of all, there's a lot of things that can make your blood sugar spike and crash. It can be lack of sleep, extra high carb or high sugary foods by themselves, stress, dehydration. I mean, the list goes on. So the good news is you don't even have to worry about uncovering exactly what it is that's making your blood sugar unregulated. The main thing is that you need to know how to solve both of these things. You need to know how to stabilize your ghrelin levels and stabilize your blood sugar, right? And the good news is this is a very practical thing that you can do with the foods that you're eating today. You need to eat more of the foods that stabilize both those things, and that is protein and fiber. Okay, these are not foreign things. These are not things that are difficult to find. You just have to be aware of it. With protein, you need to eat about 1 gram per pound of body weight. I would rather you aim very high and fall short of that than you aim low and fall short of that. Okay, so whatever your body weight is, if you're a 200-pound guy, you need to be aiming to hit 200 grams of lean protein per day. And I promise you, if you eat that protein first and you make that a priority in your meals, your body will rapidly change and you will feel a whole lot better, and you will overeat way less. If you listen to the testimonials from, all of my clients, they will all tell you they were not hungry. Typically, when you're losing weight, at some point you'll experience hunger here or there, but overall, the process of weight loss, when you're eating a lot of protein and keeping your blood sugar levels stable and your ghrelin, limited, will feel so much better than just cutting calories and not raising your protein. Okay. So this is very powerful. If you guys need some examples just to have a head start at this, any kind of lean meat, fish, dairy, chicken breast, ground turkey, ground bison, lean beef, tilapia, shrimp, egg whites, low fat yogurt, protein shakes. Okay. Lots of ideas. One of the big things that I help my clients do is learn how to sort of aim for protein on autopilot. And if there is one thing that you can create in your habits and your daily routines, it should be eating more protein. Okay. In a way that you enjoy too. Obviously that's important. Next, of course, we have fiber. How much? About 20 to 35 grams a day is plenty. The key here is low calorie, high fiber foods. So, sometimes people will say, well, whole grains and beans and dark chocolate have fiber in them, right? Yes, but those are going to be a little bit higher calorie. So I would suggest you get more of your fiber from dark leafy greens or fruit, which are all going to be very low calorie, high fiber foods. Here are some suggestions for you guys to get started. Okay. Second trigger I see with executives a lot is lack of sleep. And before you roll your eyes at me and go, I'm really busy, like I work up until my head hits the pillow, I'm aware of that. I'm going to give you some strategies that won't necessarily even require you to get more sleep. But first thing is you need to be aware that it does affect how your body thinks about food and how you feel towards food. Okay. They've done a lot of studies, and people even just getting two hours of sleep short on their sleep per night. So like, for example, they compared people sleeping 6 hours, which doesn't sound that bad to some of us, versus people sleeping 8 hours, huge difference. So if you can, get more sleep. If you can't, you need to be aware that not getting enough sleep is going to affect you. Okay. And the first thing you can do is, first of all, make an effort. Sometimes it does just come down to realizing sleep is directly affecting my cravings. Sleep is directly making me overeat more. And sometimes just knowing about it is enough to get aggressive with your sleep and get to sleep earlier and get more of it. One thing you can do is wear a sleep tracker, like an Oura Ring, a Whoop Strap, an Apple Watch. They have mattresses that will track your sleep these days. Lots of ways to do it. If you measure it, you can manage it, right? And that's the first thing you can do. Secondly, if you genuinely don't have time, sometimes I work with people who have 16-hour work days and they have conferences that go, until 8 o'clock at night. And by the time they get home, it's 10 or 11. So if that's you and you truly can't get more sleep, then it's important for you to fall asleep as fast as you can and get the best quality of sleep that you can. And so that's where supplements can absolutely come in handy, because it doesn't require you to spend more time to get into bed. It's just helping you sleep better and sleep faster. So These are my top supplements. Melatonin, I'd start with 1 to 5 milligrams. Magnesium glycinate, I would start with 300 to 400 milligrams. Theanine, 200 to 400 milligrams. Ashwagandha, KSM 66 is the kind that has been well studied. You could do 300 to 600 milligrams. And lastly, you can hire a coach, because when you pay for things, you are more likely to stick with it. Accountability is always helpful there. Last trigger, and this is probably one that you have experienced and may not be aware of. And this is a negative focus approach. If you think about meditation, when people meditate on things, they think about things that they want more of, right? They don't focus on things that they don't want to become or don't want more of, right? And that is because we are drawn towards what we focus on. So when you apply that to dieting strategies, things like keto or paleo or being vegan, it's all about cutting out things that you're not supposed to eat, right? Don't eat carbs, don't eat sugar. Maybe you've created your own diet before that's like, don't eat XYZ. And that's your strategy. Long term, that creates a lot of psychological stress on you because you are chronically focused on what you're not supposed to have. Okay. It's like telling a kid they can't have a cookie. All they're going to be thinking about and obsessing about is that cookie that they're not supposed to have. So that is not a good approach long term. Giving you guys some examples. Also, if you just think about it from a practical standpoint, if you are trying to be perfect with your diet and trying to eat 100% clean, that will create all or nothing behavior just by the way that you're thinking about that. So if your strategy is trying to be 100% perfect with what you're eating, you'll follow that maybe, 20% of the 80% of the time, and you're on track. But then 20% of the time you feel like you've totally blown it. And that 20% of feeling like you failed, maybe you do perfect all week and then you have something here or there. You have 3 cookies instead of 1 on the weekend. And that makes you feel like you failed. And that feeling, even though you haven't, even though you probably should have room and flexibility for enjoying some treats here or there, just the feeling of failing like that can create a downward spiral where you go, forget it. I've already screwed up. I might as well eat whatever. And then that actually creates the downfall, right? Instead of having a diet that is maybe 80% processed, where you're like, all right, 80% of the time I'm going to eat clean foods, but I have 20% room for flexibility and treats. That way, when the weekend rolls around and you have a few treats, you go, okay, had a few treats. Maybe you didn't even want to eat them, right? Maybe you still weren't wanting to maybe enjoy 3 cookies, but you did. At least you have the feeling of, you know what, I've got that 20% room for flexibility and I'm still adhering to my diet. So I enjoyed that. I'm good now. And I'm going to go back to clean eating after this. As silly as that sounds, a lot of times the mindset, and especially with driven executives who are very competitive, you guys can sometimes fall into black and white thinking. And it's important that you have a strategy that is set up psychologically in the right ways for you to stay on track. So what I do with my clients is something called positive focus framing. All that means is I tell them to focus on the foods that will put them in better shape over time and help them get leaner automatically. So those are foods that encourage, for example, I want you guys to know this is not just, me saying random words at you. Focusing on foods that encourage protein synthesis. That's a process of building muscle. When you eat the right foods, your body will be way more likely to put on muscle, especially if you're lifting weights, right? If you eat the right foods, you can encourage thermogenesis. And this is automatic calorie burn through digestion. Those are foods you want to eat more of. I tell them to eat more foods that lower ghrelin. Remember how we were talking about ghrelin? There are certain foods that will cut your ghrelin levels in half. That gives you a huge advantage for automatically eating less and being in control of your cravings just by eating more of the right foods. And that's a lot less stressful for me to tell people to focus on eating more of the right foods instead of cutting out all the bad foods, which is it's just not even possible to do. You couldn't even create a full list if you tried of all the foods that you're not supposed to eat. So much better to have a positive focus on the things that will put you in control and automatically tone your body up over time instead of trying to negatively focus on all the bad stuff. And the way that I do this also, this is a concept that might make sense to you, but the only way that you can actually know how to do that within the diet that you're eating is to have someone assess you one-on-one personally, right? So the way that I do that and make that a tangible thing for my clients to do, to focus on eating more of the right foods, is I do a nutrition audit and I look at what they're eating already. And then I can point out to them, these are foods that will accelerate the process. This is good, eat more of this. And then foods that maybe aren't so ideal, we'll swap them with foods that are ideal, right? And that way we're kind of optimizing within the current diet that they have. It feels natural to them and they can, again, have a positive focus on the right foods. Anyway, hope that was helpful for you guys. Again, it's really about putting your body in a state that makes it more likely for you to be successful with moderating what you're eat and when you're what you're eating and when you're eating it. It's not about the foods that are in front of you. You got to realize that if you're an executive, you cannot eliminate all the bad food. All you can do is put yourself in a position of being in control of what you're eating. So I really want you to focus on that. Again, if it's one thing that you walk away with from this training, it's you got to focus on your body state and, putting yourself in an advantage for that. So if you want the full notes for this training, either for you or someone you think would appreciate them, drop the word notes in the comment section below. I see the comments before I check my DMs. So put that there, and I will see you guys again soon. Hope you're having a great week.